Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:06 on O'Connor and Company this Thursday morning, the 9th day of May in your nation's capital. Coming up in just 30 minutes, we're going to check in with one of the Republicans running for the most winnable congressional seat up for grabs this election season, the 6th District of Maryland. Tom Royals will be our guest. It's 7:05. Bethany Mandel trying to bring a voice of reason and sanity to the Montgomery County School Board. I bet wherever you're listening right now, you could use a voice of sanity at your local school board. So Bethany Mandel will bring you some tips. It's 7:35. Ken Neunenkamp, local business owner who is participating in Military Appreciation Month, as every small business should do. And then at 8:05, Kate T. McFarland. And at 8:35, our pal Matt Foldy. It's Larry O'Connor with our pal Mercedes Schlapp all morning long. Good morning, Mercedes.
Larry, it's been so much fun so far.
It always is. It always is. In fact, you have such a busy schedule, and it's hard to always set our watch by your appearances on O'Connor and Company. But my understanding is you are all in for the rest of this every Thursday.
I believe so, yes.
We will set our clock by that, and you're locked in, and that's always a good thing. But this is going to be a busy year for everybody.
Oh my goodness, Larry, we're not going to sleep. There's no time.
No.
There's no time to sleep.
Well, it was going to be a busy year for Kristi Noem too.
Gosh. Oh God.
I have been so dying to talk to you about this because you are a political communications professional. This is your job. Has been your entire adult life. You want to talk to somebody, even Matt, your husband Matt, when we start getting into discussions about CPAC or whatever, if there's a crisis in our lives or if there's a political issue, Matt always turns to you. Even a local, like a family issue, he turns to you and says, well, you handle it. You're comms. You're like, you're comms within your marriage, you're comms.
I am Mrs. Crisis Communications.
Yes. So I've got to get your, and here's the other reason why I wanted to pick your brain about this. Like me, we both have great admiration for Kristi Noem. I think she's a very good politician, a very good elected official. She was a wonderful congresswoman, and I think one of the better governors during the last several years. So what the hell has gone on here with this book tour and what was left in the book, and then the explanation when people said, wait a minute, what's going on here with the dog, and then the Kim Jong-un thing, and whether you met, it's like, well, when that came to my attention, I asked them to take it out. But you recorded the audio book, so you knew that it was in there. Mercedes, have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I am scratching my head. Larry, I can't understand what has happened here. This is totally imploded on Governor Kristi Noem. It does feel, although she did record the audible, I get a sense that she really did not edit the book the way you should have edited the book.
She has said that there was a ghostwriter, and everybody needs to know, for the most part, politicians' books have ghostwriters. Partly because they're not all equipped to write a book, but secondly, their schedules are very busy, and it takes a lot of time to write a book.
Can I be honest with you? I get it, and and you want the support, but like Matt wrote his own book, and I was telling Heather this. Literally, Matt had COVID. I'll never forget, and so we had a deadline. Like the book had to be completely done. So you know what he made me do? He made me sit right next to him while he had COVID on the couch, coughing up a storm, and I had to read through the whole entire book and make sure there was no errors. And I told him, I said, if I get COVID, I'm going to kill you.
And
well, I didn't say it that much, but I will tell you, there was no mention of, there was no talk about killing a dog. There was no mention about
that part of
meeting with a dictator when we didn't meet with a dictator. I'm so sorry. Well, I mean, and then she goes on this tour.
Right.
Larry, Kristi Noem goes on the tour. She goes on Newsmax, okay? Wake
Friendly
Up America
media.
with Rob Finnery.
Yes.
And then goes on Fox News. They went at her hard. It was such a disaster from a communication standpoint. And I was literally at that, when I saw her interview with Newsmax, I was like with Rob Finnery, who's an excellent anchor. she could not answer the basic questions. I was like, get her off the air. Like, I was literally like, as a comms person, I was like, get her off the air right now.
Cancel the book tour. Get her off the air. It's like, stop it. She's dead already. Stop.
Yeah,
it's like, it's over.
Look, you shot the dog. You shot yourself in the foot. Like, we're done.
So,
like,
take
a vacation.
But Mercy, so they did. They finally canceled the book tour. But even that they didn't do well. Listen to Greg Gutfeld. She was supposed to be on Gutfeld, which is a great... You do that show a lot. Our buddy Ben Shapiro was just on last night. This is a good forum to sell a book. It's a great forum to show yourself as a natural human being and interacting with people. And they couldn't even cancel the book tour right. Listen.
So, this weekend I did something I rarely do. I read a guest book for a segment we had planned. It's called No Going Back by Noem. Who knew the title was referring to this show? Because today she canceled on us. Yeah. The one time I actually read the book, and the author, the person whose name is on the book, cancels, blames the weather. I don't believe it. I just think it's a little late to keep her on a short leash. I'd hope she'd reconsider, but I'm not going to sit up and beg.
The dog references are good, but what was in there that's most important is they canceled because of the weather.
The weather.
The weather, Mercy?
No. I mean, like, I don't know who's advising her on the comms piece, but it's not working. Okay? Like, you can't just say, oh, we're going to cancel because of the weather.
Right.
I mean,
not in this day and age. Especially when, I'm sorry, I check the weather on a regular basis. She's not in the middle of the tornadoes that we're seeing in the Midwest. She's already traveling out here. What's the weather condition that makes her cancel? It's a lie. It's another lie.
Yeah, well, the reality is she was already up in New York because she did the interviews with Stuart Varney. She did the interviews with Rob Finnerty in Newsmax. She was already up in New York, so she left early because then you pretty much taped the show for Greg Gutfeld during the day.
Yeah.
So she bailed out of New York. It was such a It was such a colossal disaster. Every interview after she interviewed with Stuart Varney. Crazy. I mean,
is it true that when she said she's canceling because of the weather, did she really mean it was raining cats and dogs?
Oh, that was yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's
I actually stole that. I stole that from Mark Hemingway. He put that one out there. I thought it was.
Oh, okay. Well, let's look at the South Dakota weather right now.
Yeah, maybe what she means is she had to go back because there are some tornadoes going through the Midwest, but I believe it's the southern Midwest, not South Dakota.
Well, it just looks like it's I don't see any weather alerts
I don't
right now.
either. Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's right now a nice 53 degrees in South Dakota. There
really is.
Weather.
So
they said there were a few showers early, becoming a steady rain overnight.
It's very rare at a moment like this when we can sort of reflect on this, because this has basically gone on for the last 7 days, and it's been an astounding story to witness, and we've been commenting on it, and yes, having some fun with it. But it's very rare that we have an opportunity to talk to literally a communications media professional. She's worked in 2 different White Houses in that capacity, most recently the Trump White House, which had its share of sort of crisis management moments and how to properly communicate. So when we come back, we're going to play a little bit of the best and worst of Noem over the last several days. We're going to get your opinion on how it was handled and what would have been a better approach, perhaps. And then the big question, is she done? She was considered shortlist for running mate.
Yeah.
Is that over? We'll ask Mercy that burning question in a moment. But first, it's 6:15. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the 5s. Here is Jamie Whitten and the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic.
Later this morning on the Chris Plant Show, an army of illegal aliens in Denver has sent a list of 13 demands to the mayor's office. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
You said when you learned of it, you immediately took action. Mm-hmm. You recorded the whole book and the audiobook. You read this whole passage out loud. Why didn't you take it out then when you read the audiobook?
I've traveled for years. I've been involved in policy for almost 30 years. And so I've gone all across the world. I've met with world leaders.
So you didn't realize when you recorded the audiobook?
When it was brought to my attention, and I asked the publisher if they would remove the name, and they did.
That was Noem's moment where she, again, Mercy, I like her, so it is always an uncomfortable thing to sort of, I don't want to seem like we're piling on, but this is a study in a political
what not to do.
Well,
like, what
political
not to
rights
do.
and wrongs. So clearly they said, okay, if they ask about this, just stick with this message. But then as soon as you get counterfacts, like you recorded the audiobook, so what do you mean when it was brought to your attention? Then you can't just stick with the same story. You can't just stick with the same talking point because it's nonsensical. And in the era of Trump, where the best politicians right now need to seem natural, seem like they're real, seem like they're not rehearsed and test marketed and stuff. She came off like a robot, just repeating the same thing.
The problem, look, she's spinning her way. Noem is trying to spin her way out of this. There's no spinning your way out of this. You could either say, I missed it, just admit your flaws. Sometimes when you admit your flaws is when you come across being more authentic and you're able to for people to be like, okay, I can forgive her I don't think they're going to forgive her for killing the dog, but I can forgive her for saying she met with the dictator but didn't really meet with the dictator. Right. But I think it's been one mistake after the other. It's been such a defensive posture. And it's really, I think, has completely damaged any credibility and her reputation in now and in the long run. I don't think she can recover from this. I think this is very damaging for individuals. First of all, the book's going to flop.
It's doing okay on Amazon. I checked. It's still doing
did?
well. Yeah, I mean,
how's it doing?
It's
what's the number?
I'll give you the numbers in a sec.
Okay, we'll look it up. But I think she, instead of just owning up to it and just saying, you know what, you're right, I missed that, but this is why we still have to go after the North Korean leader. It does clean up the mess a little bit on aisle 5, but you're not gonna. It's going to be very hard for her to recuperate from this.
She yesterday or 2 days ago, I think it was Stuart Varney on Fox. And Stuart's a good man, but he's also listen. Anybody who is a host of any show at a moment like this in this kind of news cycle, you got to ask certain questions, otherwise you look like a fool. And so, and Stuart, by the way, who also is a very congenial person, he can, if you're sitting on set with him as she was, and you start sort of blowing smoke up his skirt, he's going to start messing with you. And so
still think that you are in line to be Trump's vice president?
No, it's up to Donald Trump. He's the only person who will decide this. He's the only person who will decide. And I do speak to him.
May I ask what he said to you about being vice president?
I never tell anybody my personal conversations with
Did the dog story
President
come up
Trump.
in a conversation with
I talk to President Trump all the time.
About the dog?
About a lot of things. And right now, I tell you what, he is being persecuted in a political witch hunt in this court case. So I'm proud of him about how tough he is and how well he is doing.
Did you bring up the dog?
Yes, enough,
with
Stuart.
With Trump? Did you
this
bring
interview
up the dog
is
with Trump?
ridiculous, what you were doing right now.
So
you need to stop. It is.
Okay.
It is.
We'll
Let's
stop.
talk about some real topics that Americans care about.
I'm afraid we're out of time.
I'm afraid we're out of time.
So listen, I made this point yesterday. I've been thinking about it, and I still think it's true. For running mate, maybe not, but I don't think she's done. What has she displayed here? She has displayed that she can stick to the talking points even when things are crashing and burning around you. You stay disciplined. You stay on message, number one. Number two, she turned it on the media, and at the same time as turning it on the media, she pointed out that Donald Trump is being treated unfairly. And to me...
But Larry, can you get out of your mind that she killed the dog?
It's a theory.
When you see Kristi Noem, what do you think of? Dead dog, right?
Right now, I think of the dead
so
dog, and I think way too much makeup.
Well, that's
but yes,
okay,
yeah. Well, you said when I said
dead dog.
You do think about the dead dog, but you know what? There's a lot of people who look at Donald Trump and they immediately think of negative things, but then his performance overcomes that. What he brings. I'm just saying. I think Trump could very well pick her to be a cabinet secretary.
He is not going to. I'm going to tell you. I am sure. Okay, I can put money on this. Well, I shouldn't put money on this. I am sure that if Donald Trump and Kristi Noem spoke, the dog conversation came up because he reads everything.
Sure.
Donald Trump reads every single article. He's like, I mean, Kristi, seriously, I might not like dogs, but seriously.
Sarah Palin killed wolves in Alaska from a helicopter to sort of thin the herd, right? I mean, that's part of her narrative.
I'm sorry.
She could be
Nowadays,
Secretary of the Interior. They have to deal with wildlife mitigation a lot.
I don't think she could get through a Senate confirmation hearing.
Because of the dog thing.
Because of the dog. And then it becomes a huge distraction for the administration. Look, I like Kristi Noem. I really do. I think, she connects with a lot of people, but the reality is that this book really is devastating. I mean, it's just devastating for her.
I think sometimes, think this through strategically. If you've got a couple of cabinet secretary confirmations in the first month or two of your administration, and that's what's sucking up all the oxygen and the focus from the media, that allows you to actually get some stuff done with the media not watching. So maybe it's good to have a distraction.
Let me tell you,
as
Donald
long as
Trump,
the
FBI will be watching. I mean, the Russians will be watching.
I'm going to stay right here in Camp Christie. I'm not giving up hope on Christie.
Okay, Mr. I don't know. I don't think that's going to work, Larry. I'm sorry.
I'm not in favor of murdering dogs. I'm just saying that I don't think it's a career ender.
Maybe she should go. Do you realize, like, Lara Trump, who is like the RNC co-chair, she does so much work for the dogs and to save dogs and adopt dogs. There is no way Kristi Noem is getting near the Trump administration right now.
There you go.
I'm just telling
you. That I've never heard anything more definitive from her than that. There you go. That's why we have an expert on. It's 6:23.
Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:36 now on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here to our Thursday morning edition. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Mercedes Schlapp. And coming up at 7:05, Bethany Mandel running for school board in Montgomery County. 7:35, Ken Noonenkamp, a local business owner. He owns the wine outlets. Love that organization, and we love what he's doing along with other business owners to celebrate Military Appreciation Month. Ken is a former Marine, a retired Marine. A dormant Marine, let's say. At 8:05, KT McFarland. And at 8:35, Matt Foldy on the political disintegration of David Trone's ambitions as we see him sort of have a public meltdown before our eyes. That's all coming up. But joining us right now is Tom Royals. He is running for the Republican nomination in the 6th District of Maryland, and he joins us now. Hey, Tom, thanks for being here. Good talking with you.
Hey, Larry, Mercedes, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
It's TomRoyalsForCongress.com, TomRoyalsForCongress.com, and you're a former Navy flight officer, and you served the nation in the United States Navy, and now you want to serve the nation in the United States Congress. Tell us how you're making that transition.
Oh, my word, yes. So thanks a bunch for having me. Yeah, it all started. So, I'm born and raised in Maryland, grew up in a big family. Fourth of 8 kids, so my parents taught me to dedicate my life in service to God, country, and family. After the terrorist attacks on 9/11, that took on the character of military service. That brought me to the Naval Academy, where we learned to assume the highest responsibility and citizenship in government. Went to flight school, trained as a Naval Flight Officer, flying the F-18 Super Hornet. Active duty for 8 years, deployed overseas, flying combat missions over Iraq and Afghanistan, where I earned an Air Medal. Transitioned off of active duty in 2015, went to business school at the University of Virginia Darden School of Business, where I earned an MBA. Hey, married with kids, family man, blessed to be a family man. Been married for going on 17 years. We have 9 children, just had a baby girl. In the middle of this whole race, 5 months, I married Miss America. Our youngest is a baby girl, 5 months old. Running for Congress to fight for our country.
That's an amazing story. It really is, and a great one. And I want to say, there's something about you being a fighter in the military now wanting to go to Congress, because there's a lot of fighting going on in Congress right now. How does that spirit, that ethic, that sort of focus of your life then transition to serving the constituents there, because they want you to go up there and fight for them?
Well, look, we get to build our country. I think folks, we get around the district a lot. Folks are really concerned about all the issues going on, in our country, around the world. Folks are concerned about the border. Folks are really, really, really worried about the economy, the inflation, how much everything's costing just to live their life. And I think what folks want is somebody who understands, who's going through the same things that they are. They don't. No one ever says, "Hey, we need another career politician. We need to send somebody else who's been in politics forever to Washington. We need somebody who understands what we're doing." So I've fought for the country before. I'm prepared to fight for it again, and that's what I'm going to do when I get to Congress.
I'm still focused on the 9 children. I think that's such a blessing. How remarkable! I mean, I have 5, and it's so great.
You better get to work there, Mercy. You're like only halfway there,
honey. I'm so old. I'm ready to become a grandmother at some point. But I got to ask you this. So when you were talking with your wife and the kids, What did you tell them when you say, look, I feel called to run? Like, and it's obviously Maryland is such a tough state, to win in many of these districts. What was your sense and what was your message to your family?
Oh yeah, well, so again, the country's worth fighting for. Dedicate your life in service to God, country, and family. I've done that my whole life. Here's another opportunity to go serve the country. My wife's amazing. She's my running mate with me every step of the way. So we're teaching our kids the same thing. And there's a real opportunity. So, like, what folks need to know is the Maryland 6, it's an open seat. They redrew the district lines in 2022. Very, very competitive. Now's the time to go win it. Yeah. Now's the time to go flip this district.
I've been trying to ask the candidates from Maryland 6 kind of a strategic question with regard to absentee ballots, mail-in ballots, early voting ballots, because, listen, we've seen this for every election cycle for, I think, the last 8 years now. On election night, it looks like the Republican wins. And then over the course of the next 24 hours or a couple of days sometimes, as they start counting those mail-in ballots, oh, look, the Democrat found the mail-in ballots, and now they're the winner. Do you have a strategy with that regard?
Protect the ballot, turn out to vote. Vote, in terms of protect the ballot, vote the way that works best for you. Obviously, everything legal, do everything the way you're supposed to, but protect the ballot, and then get out to vote. I think we need candidates that can actually inspire people to come out and like, hey, let's go do this. We can actually win this election in November against the Democrat. And so, hey, be vigilant. Get to the polls. If you notice anything, make sure you know how to get to the folks in the local party to say, hey, something's going on. But protect the ballot. Get out the vote. That's how we're going to flip this seat.
Let me ask you, if you win the primary, would you support Speaker Mike Johnson? Would you continue to support him as a speaker, considering that there's so much infighting happening among some of the Republicans who have stood up against Mike Johnson?
Yeah, so with all the a lot of things blew up yesterday and everything. So I think the most thing I'm focused on is winning the seat, increasing, protecting the majority in the House of Representatives. I don't think it's a good idea to sort of have all this sort of speakership fights. I think that is a big distraction. I think what the party needs to do is focus on winning more seats, protecting the seats that we currently have. So going forward, I'm going to work with anybody, absolutely anybody who wants to build the country, who wants to make it stronger, who wants to get back to doing what we're good at, building, making the conditions great for businesses, families, all of that. So that's what I'm focused on.
We're speaking with Tom Royals, running for Congress in Maryland 6. He wants your vote for the Republican nomination. By the way, is that an F-16 in your logo that you're using? You're steering straight into that. That's nice. That looks good. I got to ask you this. I'm sorry, but listen, when a candidate comes in, we try to be fair and balanced, and if you've got a black mark on your record, we got to draw attention to it and have you answer to it. You've been endorsed by the Washington Post, and I don't know what to make of that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Hey, I think it's a good thing. Look, I think what they're seeing is a genuine candidate. I think what they're seeing is someone who can win. Look, I'm a first-time candidate. Before I got in last summer, folks didn't know who I was, so I had to basically, get the word out, build this thing up from scratch, running against other, career politicians that have been doing this for a really long time. And so the narrative, maybe the early part was, hey, here are the same guys running again and again.
Well,
but what we've made it all the way through this thing, and now at the end of it, it's like, wait, hey, there's this guy. He's a political newcomer. He's raised a ton of money. He seems to have a ton of support. Let's see how this. We feel very, very confident going into the election on Tuesday night, and very, very optimistic about the outcome.
Well, and I will tell you that just thinking from a pure political standpoint, of course, I'm only half joking about the Washington Post thing, but the fact of the matter is, for parts of the 6th district, being the Republican that the Washington Post was okay with, at least, there's no way they're going to endorse the Republican in the general election.
You're going to you're going to end your career if you keep moving in this direction. With
I'm just saying.
There's nothing
for
good
some
about
of those
the
Montgomery County Republicans, that is actually a bit of a feather. Either way.
Boy.
He's a strong candidate, and we are eagerly looking forward to the primary next week so that we can then coalesce Republicans in Maryland around our candidates.
Don't kill your dog. That's the only thing I ask.
I didn't ask. You haven't shot your dog. You're good. All right, Tom Royals.
You haven't shot your dog. Okay, check.
Thanks for joining us, Tom. Good luck on the
primary.
primary.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. It's Tom Royals for Congress.com. It is 6:44. We talked about Kristi Noem earlier and whether she has any political chances. What do you think of Elise Stefanik, Mercedes?
I'm a huge Elise Stefanik fan. I think she is brilliant. She's such a great communicator. She understands policy, and she fights. She's a fighter. So when we were talking about like these VP picks, I definitely could see Elise Stefanik kind of on that short
And
list.
I'll say this, too, because everyone thinks, to appeal to suburban women, which Trump does need to do, he needs to have a woman. Well, of the two, between Kristi Noem and Elise Stefanik, I assure you, Elise Stefanik appeals more to suburban moms than Kristi Noem does. She's just very relatable. She seems like, one of us, right? Kristi Noem doesn't always come across that way.
She connects so well.
Yeah.
To her constituents, to those in the conservative movement,
and she's whip smart. She is
smart.
And she has been focusing on the issues that we care about and that moms care about. She went after the college presidents, as you know, in that very important committee meeting over anti-Semitism on campuses. But she didn't stop there. Yesterday, she focused on anti-Semitism at our K through 12 schools.
He posted images of a Hamas paraglider to his social media, repeatedly refers to so-called Israel. Again, this is highlighting a Hamas paraglider who slaughtered Jews.
What that employee did, absolutely disgusting. Absolutely
but
disgusting.
What action?
And we took action.
What was the action?
I cannot give you the specifics on the action that was taken.
Yes, you can. You're in front of Congress.
That was the chancellor of New York schools.
Wow.
I can't tell you what we did. Which,
I
by the
can't tell
way,
you.
if it's true that he can't testify under Congress about what he did, then that's, again, shows the power of the teachers' unions and the contracts. Also testifying at the hearing yesterday was Bethany Mandel. She was at the hearing. She was not testifying, but she was there. She's going to give us a firsthand account and also an update on her run for Montgomery County Board of Education. She's joining us next. It's 6:52.